The ocean holds its secrets close, but none so tightly as the story of the Mary Celeste. On December 4, 1872, the British brigantine Dei Gratia spotted a ship adrift in the Atlantic. It was sailing erratically, its sails torn and flapping in the wind. As they drew closer, they recognized her, the Mary Celeste, which had left New York just a month earlier. What they found on board would become one of history's greatest maritime mysteries. The ship was entirely deserted. Not a single soul was found. 10 people, Captain Benjamin Briggs, his wife Sarah, their 2-year-old daughter Sophia, and a crew of 7, had vanished into thin air. Yet the ship itself was in remarkably good condition. The cargo of 701 barrels of industrial alcohol was almost entirely untouched. The crew's personal belongings were still in their quarters. A 6-month supply of food and water remained. It was as if everyone had simply evaporated mid-voyage. The last entry in the ship's log was dated November 25th, 10 days before her discovery. It recorded her position near the Azores, nothing more. No mention of distress, no storm, no panic. The only lifeboat was missing, but there were no signs of a hasty or violent departure. The ship's papers, except for the logbook, were gone. On the captain's table, a sewing machine stood ready with a child's garment still under the needle. Everything pointed to a sudden but orderly evacuation. But why? The official inquiry concluded that the crew had abandoned ship for reasons unknown. This explanation is unsatisfying because it explains nothing. Why would an experienced captain like Benjamin Briggs abandon a perfectly seaworthy vessel in the middle of the Atlantic? The popular theories we've all heard, sea monsters, pirates, mutiny, a waterspout, they all crumble under scrutiny. Pirates would have looted the ship. A mutiny would have left signs of violence. A storm powerful enough to terrify the crew into leaving would have surely damaged the ship far more severely. Let's dig deeper beyond the common narrative. The cargo itself is a key piece of the puzzle. The 1701 barrels of denatured alcohol were destined for Genoa, Italy. When the cargo was finally unloaded, 9 of these barrels were found to be empty. These weren't just any barrels. They were made of red oak, a more porous wood than the white oak used for the rest of the shipment. The prevailing theory is that alcohol vapor leaked from these 9 barrels, creating a fear of imminent explosion. Captain Briggs, panicking, ordered everyone into the lifeboat, perhaps intending to tow behind the ship at a safe distance until the danger passed. A sudden gust of wind, a snapped towline, and they were cast adrift, while the Mary Celeste sailed on without them. It sounds plausible, but it has a fatal flaw. The hold was not sealed airtight. Any vapor buildup would have been gradual and would have dissipated. The crew on the Dei Gratia reported no strong smell of alcohol when they boarded. More importantly, Captain Briggs was a co-owner of the Mary Celeste. He was a temperate, experienced mariner. Would he really abandon his valuable ship and investment over a threat that, to a seasoned sailor, would seem manageable? The idea of a sudden, irrational panic doesn't fit the profile of the man. This is where the story takes a darker, more complex turn. We need to look not just at what was on the ship, but who was connected to it. Let's start with the salvage claim. The crew of the Dei Gratia, led by Captain David Morehouse, towed the Mary Celeste to Gibraltar and claimed salvage rights. The court awarded them a sum, but it was suspiciously small, only about 1/5 of the ship and cargo's total value. The judge, Sir James Cockrell, was openly suspicious, even suggesting foul play. Why such a low reward? Perhaps the court suspected that Morehouse knew more than he was letting on. Here's a fact often overlooked. Captain Briggs and Captain Morehouse were not strangers. They were close friends. They had even had dinner together in New York just before the Mary Celeste set sail. This coincidence has always been treated as just that, a coincidence. But what if it wasn't? Let's construct a different timeline. What if the abandonment wasn't an accident, but a prearranged rendezvous? This brings us to our first unconventional hypothesis, a staged disappearance for an insurance payout, but not in the way you think. What if the target wasn't the Mary Celeste, but another ship entirely? Let's consider the world of 19th century shipping. It was a cutthroat business. Ships were expensive, profits were uncertain, and insurance fraud was rampant. Imagine this scenario. Captain Briggs, a man of integrity, discovers evidence of a massive fraud scheme involving other ships, other captains, perhaps even his own vessel's previous owners. He gathers proof, documents, ledgers, incriminating papers. He knows that if he brings this to the authorities in a normal port, he's a dead man. The network is too powerful. He needs to disappear, but in a way that preserves the evidence. So he confides in his trusted friend, Captain Morehouse. They devise a plan. In the mid-Atlantic, the Dei Gratia would meet the Mary Celeste. Briggs, his family, and his loyal crew would transfer to Morehouse's ship, along with the crucial documents. To make the abandonment look real, they take the lifeboat and the ship's papers, leaving the logbook behind to show a normal voyage. The plan is for Morehouse to drop them off secretly in a remote port, from where they can start a new life and expose the conspiracy from a safe distance. But something goes wrong. A storm separates the ships after the transfer, or perhaps the conspiracy's agents are closer than they thought. Maybe someone on Morehouse's own crew is part of the scheme. The Briggs family and their crew are silenced at sea, their evidence lost with them. Morehouse, now the sole witness to a plan gone horribly wrong, is trapped. He can't tell the truth without incriminating himself and putting his own life in danger. So, he plays dumb. He discovers the ghost ship and tows it to Gibraltar, his strangely subdued behavior, and the court's low salvage award being the only silent clues to the tragedy he's hiding. This theory explains the missing papers, the orderly abandonment, and the curious connection between the two captains. It transforms the mystery from a random accident into a failed whistleblower plot. Now let's push the boundaries even further, into a realm of calculated conspiracy grounded in the political tensions of the time. The cargo was industrial alcohol, headed for Genoa. In the 1870s, Italy was a hotbed of political radicals, anarchists, and revolutionaries, particularly followers of Giuseppe Mazzini, who were plotting against the established monarchies of Europe. What if the 9 empty barrels weren't for alcohol at all? What if they contained something far more valuable and dangerous? Weapons, gold, or secret communications for these revolutionary groups? This leads to our second hypothesis. The Mary Celeste was part of a clandestine political plot. Let's look at the players. The ship was American. The cargo was from America. The destination was Italy. At the time, Irish nationalist groups like the Fenian Brotherhood were active in the United States, raising funds and plotting against British rule. They often formed alliances with other European radical groups. The captain, Briggs, was a man of principle. What if he wasn't a willing participant, but an unwitting mule who discovered the true nature of his cargo mid-voyage? Imagine Captain Briggs, inspecting the hold, discovers that 9 barrels don't contain alcohol. He finds weapons or political documents. He is a patriot, a law-abiding man, and he realizes he is caught in an international conspiracy. He can't simply turn back. The conspirators would be waiting. He can't proceed to Genoa and deliver the contraband. His only option is to disappear. He uses the ship's lifeboat to get his family and crew to the nearby Azores Islands, taking the incriminating evidence with him. He hopes to find an American consulate and expose the plot. But the plotters are one step ahead. They have agents on the islands, or perhaps on another vessel shadowing the Mary Celeste. The Briggs family and crew are intercepted and eliminated, their secret dying with them. The empty barrels found on the ship weren't empty because of leakage. They were empty because their true contents had been loaded into the lifeboat along with the crew. This theory accounts for the missing lifeboat, the vanished crew, and the 9 specific empty barrels. It elevates the mystery from a simple maritime accident to a story of espionage, political intrigue, and a brave captain who paid the ultimate price for stumbling upon a secret he was never meant to know. The official narrative, focused on leaking alcohol, becomes a convenient cover story, masking a much deeper and more dangerous truth that powerful people wanted to keep buried. The story of the Mary Celeste endures, not because we have no answers, but because the ones we have are too simple. They don't account for the contradictions, the missing pieces, the human element. The truth may be hidden in the low salvage award, the friendship between two captains, or the 9 empty barrels of red oak. It wasn't a sea monster or a ghost that claimed the crew. It was something far more familiar and far more terrifying. Human ambition, conspiracy, and secrets worth killing for. The Mary Celeste sails on in our imagination, a silent monument to 10 souls who vanished, and a story that is far from over. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into one of history's most haunting mysteries. If you enjoy challenging official stories and exploring the unknown, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more investigations. What do you think really happened? Let me know in the comments below.